to our Schools Division Superintendent, Ma'am Sharon P. Gayola, to our SGO Chief, Sir Salvi Elizalde Sena, to our supervisors, our principals, and to all our teachers, good morning. Allow me to present to you the overview of the distance learning delivery modalities or distance learning. DepEd Order Number 12, Series of 2020, the adoption of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan for SY 2020-2021 in light of the COVID-19 public health emergency provides us guidelines on how distance education will be implemented. And the highlight of this DepEd order is the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan in the time of COVID-19. In the integration of inputs into the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, the Office of the Secretary was guided by the following principles. Number 1, to protect the health, safety, and well-being of learners, teachers, and personnel, and prevent the further transmission of COVID-19. Number 2, to ensure learning continuity through K-12 curriculum adjustments, alignment of learning materials, deployment of multiple learning delivery modalities, provision of corresponding training for teachers and school leaders, and proper orientation of parents or guardians of learners. Number 3, facilitate the safe return of teaching and non-teaching personnel and learners to workplaces and schools, taking into consideration the scenarios projected by the Department of Health and the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Disease in the Philippines, complemented by other credible sources and balanced with DepEd's own risk assessment. Number 4, be sensitive to equity considerations and concerns and endeavors to address them the best we can. Number 5, link and bridge the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan to DepEd's pivot to quality and into the future of education under the framework of Sulong Edukalidad and futures thinking in education. DepEd adheres to the position of closure of schools or use of alternative learning modalities. Example, the online or the distance learning. This is why in our Schools Division Office, we implement distance learning. DepEd's readiness for distance learning. Given the epidemiological picture, the direction of overall government response, and the directive of the Secretary to find ways for learning to continue in a safe and healthy environment amid COVID-19, it is clear that distance learning will be a key modality of learning delivery for this school year. Distance learning is not new to DepEd. We have existing alternative delivery modalities or ADMs in the formal schools which are not confined to online or digital platforms. However, although this distance learning was implemented in a smaller scale before, but this time of this pandemic, there is a need for all of us or for the entire DepEd to implement this distance learning in a larger scale. What are the learning delivery modalities that must be employed or that must be used so that distance learning may be implemented? The learning delivery modalities that schools can adopt may be one or combination of the following depending on the COVID-19 restrictions and the particular context of the learners in the school or locality. Face-to-face, although it is not yet allowed because of our situation brought about by this COVID-19, this refers to learning delivery modality where the students and the teacher are both physically present in the classroom and there are opportunities for active engagement immediate feedback, and social emotional development of learners. This is our usual modality before the pandemic. But as I have said, because of our situation, face-to-face is not allowed, so the distance learning, other distance learning modalities will be implemented. Let's talk about the distance learning. Distance learning refers to a learning delivery modality where learning takes place between the teacher and the learners who are geographically remote from each other during instruction. This modality has three types: the modular distance learning, MDL, online distance learning, and television, TV, radio-based instruction. Distance learning, online distance learning features the teacher as facilitator, engaging learners' active participation through the use of various technologies accessed through the internet while they are geographically remote from each other during instruction. In our division, our online classes for this modality is conducted through our e-learning platforms for the secondary and ALS learners and Learn for our elementary learners. TV or radio-based instruction. It utilizes self-learning modules converted to video lessons for television-based instruction and self-learning modules converted to radio scripts for radio-based instruction. Distance learning modality is most viable for independent learners and learners supported by periodic supervision of parents or guardians. This is used in other divisions and other regions. However, in our division, we're not implementing this. Blended learning. This modality refers to a learning delivery that combines face-to-face with any or a mix of online distance learning, modular distance learning, and TV radio-based instruction. However, in our division, in our SDO context, blended learning is referred to the combination of modular and online through Google Meet in conducting online synchronous and classes. Homeschooling is another distance learning delivery modalities. This is an alternative delivery mode that aims to provide learners with quality basic education that is facilitated by qualified parents, guardians, or tutors who have undergone relevant training in a home-based environment. It allows families to educate according to their personal faith, philosophy, and values and adjust learning schedules around family schedules and circumstances. However, this is not implemented in our division. What are the learning resources for distance learning? Our division, with the leadership of our supervisors, master teachers, and selected teachers, we were able to prepare and produce the self-learning modules. And these self-learning modules, which are in print and in digital format, are the primary learning materials for our learners. However, the use of textbooks, activity sheets, video lessons, the use of the materials in Deped Commons and any other relevant materials that may be provided by the teachers may also be used to supplement the self-learning modules. What support or guidance should we provide our learners and who need this support and guidance? Since early grade learners need adult guidance, particularly our K-3 learners, a combination of face-to-face learning delivery with the teacher and modular learning at home may be employed. For modular learning at home, the guidance of trained para-teachers is required, particularly for those household or for those learners in the household who do not have the guide or who do not have adult learning partners. We will be talking about the para-teachers a bit later. Now, how about assessment? Is assessment possible? Can we administer different assessment to assess the the achievement of our learners? Yes, assessment is also part of the distance learning and part of the different distance learning delivery modalities. The learning outcomes in the form of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values will be assessed. Learners shall prepare their portfolio or e-portfolio to include written works and performances and products, whether hard copy, soft copy, or a combination of both. The portfolio or e-portfolio content will be assessed using rubrics that capture the evidence of learning. The testimonies of parents and other adults, including community leaders aside from teachers, may also be considered in the assessment. So, our teachers can conduct or can provide appropriate assessment. Interim guidelines on assessment through DepEd Order Number 31, Series of 2020 is also issued. These guidelines will help our teachers consider all the requirements for them to be able to assess and conduct assessment with their learners. How about for alternative learning system or for ALS? The distance learning delivery modalities, the different distance learning delivery modalities, particular distance learning is also appropriate for our ALS learners. The ALS teachers' task is to design weekly learning plans, agreement with their individual learners. The existing individual learning agreement or ILA template can be used for this purpose. The agreement shall cover specific learning objectives for the week and identify the modules and resources to be accessed. Example, worksheets, radio, TV, internet, and other learning activities that can support attainment of these learning goals. For our teachers and for our school leaders, because distance education, however, it's not new, but because it is implemented in a larger scale and we all have to take this distance education as our delivery modalities, DepEd issued memorandum entitled Suggested Strategies in Implementing Distance Learning Delivery Modalities, or DLDM, for school year 2020-2021. This DepEd memorandum highlights the preparation of weekly home learning plan and individual learning monitoring plan. This weekly home learning plan aims to ensure that learners are on task and are guided on what they are expected to accomplish within a specific week. Teachers shall prepare a weekly home learning plan with sufficient break times. This weekly home learning plan and this individual learning monitoring plan will be discussed in details by our next speakers. The weekly home learning plan will serve as substitute for the daily lesson log or daily lesson plan that is being prepared by our teachers in the face-to-face classes. So all teachers who are conducting this or using this distance learning modality and who are preparing the home or weekly home learning plan do not need to prepare their daily lesson plan anymore. Learning partners and facilitators who will act as teachers or who will guide our learners as they conduct or as they use the self-learning modules at home. Learning facilitators or a household partner like parent, guardian, sibling, or other community members considered as responsible adult shall guide and support the learning process of the child. provide guidance in accomplishing given home learning tasks, be capacitated on the roles through a capacity building program. Our schools provided orientation to the parents so that they will know or they will be oriented and they have clear idea of how they will learn or how they will help their children learn in this home-based learning or as they use the self-learning modules, as the children or as the learners use the self-learning modules at home. How about for those learners without the available learning facilitators at home? This could be possible because there are some families whose parents are both working, or sometimes there are no other available guide or guardian who can lead them in doing or accomplishing the self-learning modules. Or perhaps the guardians may not have no idea of the subject matter that is being studied by the child at home. What can the teacher do and how can we help our learners? The subject teacher or cluster learning facilitator may conduct home visits following social distancing protocols, or they may communicate through text messages, phone, live chats, or through other available forms of communication to provide assistance or remediation. Teachers, learning facilitators may be provided with loan allowance and traveling expenses chargeable against local funds, subject to availability of funds and applicable rules and regulations. School, home, and community partnership. How important is this in this time of pandemic or in this time of distance education or distance learning implementation? This is very important, more than any other consideration. Our schools should not only establish but should maintain strong school, home, and community partnership so that we can ensure the effectiveness of any distance learning delivery modalities chosen by the child or by the parents. The importance of conducting dialogue with parents and stakeholders for shared accountability and responsibility. We all know that parents and teachers can only work to ensure that the distance learning delivery modalities chosen by the children can be implemented effectively if they have constant communication. This is very critical nowadays. The constant communication between the teachers and the parents. Because it's true that our children's or our learners' education is a shared accountability between home and school or between parents and teachers. Provide adequate and appropriate guidance and support to the learners to ensure that their new experience with these learning modalities shall be properly transitioned both at home and in school. Who will do this? Who will give the appropriate guidance? It's not only the teacher, it's not only the parents, but both. School, home, and community partnership is indeed very important. Since distance learning, for those who chose online learning, we all know that cyberbullying may take place if our children if our learners are not protected or not guided. Protecting our children in this time of pandemic is also very important. So DepEd Order number 40, series of 2012, the policy guidelines on protecting children in school from abuse, violence, exploitation, discrimination, bullying, and other forms of abuse through their duties and responsibilities stipulated in section 7 to 10. Our school has changed from the physical school to the online school, particularly for our learners who chose to have the online class or to join the synchronous online class. So therefore, protecting them from cyberbullying is also very important. So DepEd requires or mandates us to strengthen the implementation of this DepEd order. Schools also need to review the composition of the Child Protection Committee or CPC, including their roles and functions in accordance with the provisions in the same order. The CPC shall work in coordination with the Barangay Council for the protection of children. Take note, our dear teachers, we have also to educate or we have also to guide our parents so that they can also guide their children at home while using the internet in distance learning. We have to guard or we have to protect our children. We all know that the services of para-teachers was mentioned in the previous provisions of the DepEd order discussed. Recently, DepEd issued another order, DepEd order number 32, series 2020, the guidelines on the engagement of services of learning support aids to reinforce the implementation of the basic education learning continuity plan in the time of COVID-19 pandemic. We would like to inform you, dear teachers, we are now in the process of preparing the contracts of those qualified applicants who will serve as learning support aids to our teachers. We all know that not all teachers can do or conduct the home visitation and can provide tutorial services to all the learners in this time of pandemic. So this is DepEd support. This is DepEd's support to all our teachers to ensure that all our learners who need the guidance of the teachers will be provided. In our context, or in response or in compliance to this DepEd order, with the leadership of our schools division superintendent, SDO Marikina City, our division, will be implementing Project REACH, Remote Education Assistance in Community Hub. This is our response to this DepEd order and to the call or to the needs of our learners who need learning support aids, or we can call them literacy tutors or para-teachers. So with this project, we can ensure that all learners who need the guidance of the teacher, although it is a home-based learning system, all these learners will be given the necessary support or guidance so that they can catch up or they will not lag behind in all the learning areas. Another support of our SDO to all of you, dear teachers, because this training, this 5-day training, may not be sufficient or may not be enough for you to master the strategies, the processes of the distance learning, because we are in the pilot implementation of this kind of modality. So, our support to you, dear teachers, again with the leadership of our SDS, we will be providing you the Distance Learning Teacher's Handbook. The content of this will be part of this training, so that when this handbook will be distributed for you to guide you in doing the distance learning or providing remote instruction to our students, you will all be well guided. We all know that it is not easy to conduct distance learning, but distance learning is possible in Marikina because we work as one to make it happen. Magandang araw po sa ating lahat. Pagpalain tayo ng may kapal.